In today's video, I'll be going over all of the settings that you need leading into the new season before Siege X. So if you want the best settings for Year 10 Season 1, let's get into it. Let's just go left to right. I'll go over the general settings. The only one that really matters here is obviously having visible throw trajectory on. If you don't have this on, you're literally just trolling. All this does is show you where things are going to go when you throw them, like drones, grenades, C4s, stuff like that. So you always want to have this on. There's no reason not to have it on. You want to have drone after prep on manual. That way you can actually get off of your drone when you want to instead of being kicked off when the timer ends. I like to put text chat channel to all because I like to talk shit. I have stun VFX on dark glare. I notice because I have a higher brightness setting that I'm actually able to see people a little bit quicker when it goes from dark to bright than I do from bright to dark. So it gives you a bit of an advantage actually. And then sometimes when I have like high ping, I'll turn on display performance metrics, which I actually have a keybind for. But other than that, that's pretty much all for the general settings. Let's move on to the HUD settings. You don't really need to change anything here. Honestly, the default HUD is completely fine. Everybody has their own preference. The only thing that I really change personally is making sure I don't have teammate outlines on. It's a little bit hard to get used to, and you will team kill people sometimes, but after a few games of running it, it just makes it to where your teammates' outlines won't be covering enemies that are right in front of you. That has honestly gotten me killed so many times that I just turned this HUD setting off. But other than that, nothing else really matters. It's all completely personal preference. Let's move on to something that isn't personal preference, and that is your audio settings. The only one that really matters as to like which setting you need to change is your dynamic range. Unless you're playing the game on a TV, which you shouldn't be playing it on, don't have your audio dynamic range on TV mode. It's really, really bad. You want to do night mode or hi-fi. Hi-fi will give you the most amount of actual audio frequency ranges, meaning that you're going to be able to hear the actual direction of where people are a lot clearer, but it does make loud noises a lot louder. So sometimes people will be flanking you and you won't be able to hear it because the explosion and the gunfire going off is super, super loud, which is why some people run night mode. It makes the gunfire and explosions a lot quieter, which allows you to hear quiet noises a lot louder. But I personally like having the directionality and knowing if people are above me or below me, and like being able to hear exactly where people are a lot more useful. So I run hi-fi. It's personal preference though, but I mean, I guess it kind of isn't. I think hi-fi is the better audio range in my opinion. I used to be a night mode stan, but I tried hi-fi and realized, oh, I can actually hear where people are. And I never went back. Going to the display settings, a lot of console people won't have some of the settings I'm going to go over, so if you're on console, you can probably honestly just skip this setting, but if you're on PC, let's go over this really quickly. You should have your display mode on full screen. That's going to give you the most seamless amount of gameplay and the best consistency of your frames. You want to have the maximum refresh rate that you're able to support. I have a really bad monitor, so I am on 144 Hertz, but I'm going to be upgrading to 360 very soon. Spoit told me to upgrade to 360. So I'm going to do it. I'm taking his word for it. Aspect ratio, you should not be on 16:9. This is only a PC tip, but you want to be on at least 16:10. And if you really like the game stretch, I recommend running 4:3. And if you want to do something in between, I recommend 3:2. 16:10, I think, is the best aspect ratio for most people. It stretches it just a little bit, but not too much to where it makes it ugly and completely messes up how you play the game. And also, if you stretch your res too much, it actually makes people appear faster. So you'll have less reaction time for opponents. So I think 16:10 is really, really good in my opinion. For FOV, I recommend that you keep it in between 82 and 90. You don't want to go lower than that. And if you are, I wouldn't go past 76. I bounce between 87 to 90 a lot. I like high FOV in my personal opinion. It's just what I'm used to. It's what I run, but that's more personal preference than anything. My brightness, you never want to have your brightness below 60. It depends on the monitor you have. I have a bit of a darker monitor, but even when I didn't have a darker monitor, I was still on 55 to 60 brightness, and that's usually on the darker side of things. I know pro players that run like 70 brightness and 80 brightness. You don't want to go beyond 75, and you don't want to go under 60 in my opinion. You want to go from 60 to 75, somewhere in between there, and I've found that 60 makes it to where really bright things aren't too bright and really dark things aren't too dark. Now let's move into more important settings, the graphics settings. So I have on everything on completely ultra. That's because when I record content, I like the graphics to look really good so that the video is more enticing for you to watch. But my actual settings, I put everything on to low, except for LOD quality, shadows, and anti-aliasing, which I just turn off completely. Anti-aliasing is going to actually make it to where you have a less consistent frames, and if you struggle to get frames, you really want to have this off. Shadow quality, having it on at least medium is very necessary, but having it on very high is not going to make your system run that noticeably much harder. In fact, I don't think it will actually make a single difference in how hard your PC runs, other than like maybe very, very little that you wouldn't even notice. Most people will be like, well, just put it on medium because medium's all you need. Very high does make the shadows more distinct, and to like a very discernible level. If you put something down in a custom game right now, I challenge you to do this. Go to a custom game, put shadows on medium, look at something that displays a shadow, and then put it on very high. The difference is there. It is there. So I put it on very high. Again, the difference between very high and medium for how your PC runs is not at all noticeable, so I recommend it highly. LOD quality is going to make it to where things that are farther away blur less, so you essentially can just see clearer if things are farther away. So I put that on ultra. Again, it also doesn't make your PC run as hard, so definitely a good setting to put on, and that's really all the necessary graphics. Everything else being on low is going to make it to where your PC runs smoother. There are some people in the comments that'll be like, I bought a $3,000 PC, so I'm not going to run everything on low. Brother, my is like directly from NASA. I have a good PC too. I also just like getting consistent frames because that to me looks good. So if you're watching a video, don't pretend like you're not trying to get the best settings in the game. That's why you're watching this video. Don't be weird. Just put everything on low settings. Anyways, let's go to the controls section. You always want to have raw input, mouse and keyboard on. Always. It's just going to make it to where you have the least amount of input delay possible. I'll go over more like in-depth PC settings later, but just know you want to have that on. This is my sensitivity right now. I run 52, 52. I bounce between that and 53, 53, 55, 55. That might seem really, really high to you, especially if you're on PC, but I have a multiplier, which makes it essentially to where 50, 50 for me is what 5, is for you. And the sensitivity that I like to have and a lot of other people like to have is somewhere in between 5 and 6 sensitivity, and you can't get that unless you multiply all of your sensitivities by 10, and then now I have 5.2 sensitivity essentially. My multiplier, in case you're wondering, is 0.001, and I run 1600 DPI, but I'll go over that again in a second. You want to have mouse scroll enabled. It makes it to where if you want to switch weapons, you just have to scroll your mouse. You don't have to press 1 or 2 on your keyboard. I like doing that a lot. It doesn't mess my aim up too much, so I do it. Gadget and drone deployment you also want on advanced. This is going to make it to where you can hold the utility out and deploy the utility without having to activate it immediately, which makes it to where you can bait people and you can bandit trick or thermite trick a lot easier. I have my aim on hold, my lean on hold, my sprint on hold. I think the best, honestly, for players to have is to have your lean on toggle, but I've been playing with my lean on hold since I started the game, and I'm pretty good with it. I don't really need to switch because I learned how to Shiko peek and stuff like that already, but you will have the most consistent Shiko peeks and you'll learn the fastest if you just bite the bullet and put your lean on toggle. So I recommend you do toggle. I do hold because that's what I'm used to, but I don't recommend doing that for new players. If you want to look at my controls specifically, I'm pretty sure the default keybind for text chat is actually T if you want to do all chat, but I found I would accidentally try to reload and then start typing in chat and it would get me killed, so I moved it away from T and I unbound that key completely and I moved it to U. And then I have text chat on Y. My push to talk is B. It's B in a lot of games, so I kind of just switched it over. I have slash as my way to be able to check my FPS. WASD, obviously. I lean with Q and E. Learning to lean with Q and E is really hard when you start out the game. So most people will do their mouse buttons. I think that will mess up your aim in the long run, and you won't be able to Shiko peek or quick peek nearly as precisely as you would be able to if you were using Q and E. So you really should just bite the bullet and learn it. It's going to take you a few weeks, but I think it's completely worth it. My crouch is on C. My prone is actually on my back mouse button right here. I have a G Pro Superlight, in case you were wondering, with some glass mouse pad skates that I bought. But I have it on this mouse button right here. I have my slow walk on my Alt key. My reload is R. My interact is actually F and not E, obviously, because I lean with those keys. I changed my melee from V to G. I found a lot of times that I would press my V key when I was trying to crouch or trying to use my push to talk, so I changed it to G. Also, I don't really melee that often, so having a key that's more out there and away from your hand is really not that bad of an issue. My primary gadget is my mouse wheel. It's not me scrolling my mouse wheel, it's me tapping it to the side. You can't really see it, but I push my mouse wheel this way. There's a little button when you do that on most mice, actually, not just the Superlight. But you can press the button this way, and that'll actually do something, and that's how I just hold it down to hold my gadget out, and then I let go to throw the gadget. Or I just use it to place it. Secondary gadget like nitros, impacts, I have it on my other mouse button right here, like impact grenades. I just press that button and it throws it. I have really weird keybinds, but these are just my keybinds. Deploying drone is 6, getting on observation tools is 5, that's default. My ping is on Z, that's also default. I have my switch ability mode on M. M is very, very far away from your keyboard. If you look at me, I have a Wu-Ting 60 HE. M is all the way over here, and I find I don't really need to press M that often. All you use for M is switching your Grimbees from sticky surfaces to bounce, or switching your Cali Sniper from 6x to 12x zoom. You don't use that often, and if you are using it, you're not in a situation where it's gonna like screw you over because you're switching an ability mode. So I put it on a key that was really far away from my hand, so I had, you know, keys that were more open that I needed to use more often. So I put it on M. I recommend you put it on a key that's pretty far away from your WASD. And that's pretty much all the important keybinds that I have. Let's go to the privacy settings. I appear as a nickname. My name is Irish Man. If you ever see Irish Man in your games, that is me. I'm a streamer, so obviously I don't want to have my name be out there. People recognize who I am and stream snipe me. By the way, Alka FPS on Twitch. I stream every single day. You should go check that out. I also have hide region and latency on. That way, if I go to my settings, it won't show which server I'm on right here, which does happen if you don't have that setting on. For my accessibility, I have my crosshair on either green or purple. I think these are the best ones because they blend in with the least amount of surfaces. I switch between the two, but I've been liking green a lot recently. My opacity is at 100. I don't find that I really need my opacity to be any lower. Screen check intensity, turn that off. There's no reason to have screen check intensity on. I found myself dying to that constantly before they made it a setting that you could turn off, so I'm so glad it's gone. Motion blur, turn that off. Why would you have it on? You're just blurring your motion. Doesn't make sense to me. Team color is blue. Opposing team color is red. If you want to get really, really meta with it, though, I think the best case scenario, honestly, is to have your team color on red and your opposing team color on blue. This is because if you're flanking and you see a claymore laser, it is a lot more distinct to see a blue laser from a claymore than it is a red laser, because a lot of staircases in the game are red. There's only like maybe 1 or 2 staircases in the game that are blue. So if you have your opposing team color on blue, claymores are actually a lot easier to see. I think Valkyrie cameras are easier to see too, in my opinion. So personal preference, I have it on default because it just feels natural to me. But if you want to put it on something else, I completely understand. I have my chat scale turned to 120. This is so my Twitch chat can actually see my in-game chat just a little bit better for content. And that's pretty much all of my in-game settings. Now, I do want to go over some settings outside of the game that are going to help you a lot so that you can actually get better if you're a PC player like I am. First of all, I have a lot of Logitech products. The webcam I'm using and the headset I'm using and the mouse that I'm using are all Logitech. I love Logitech. They have great products, but I want to go over my mouse settings. So I run 1600 DPI. Most of my life, I ran 800, but I just like 1600. I just switched over recently. I like it a lot. Personal preference really, though. I have my polling rate on 1000. The higher polling rate you have, you actually get more of a fast response time on your mouse. It's a very, very slight difference, but it is noticeable in my opinion, so I have it on the max. Now let's go over my NVIDIA control panel. Here's all my 3D settings. Pretty much anything to do with anti-aliasing you want to turn completely off except for gamma correction. You want to make sure that your system fallback is set to driver default. You want to have low latency mode on even if you don't really need it. It just is good for FPS. You want to make sure that your max frame rate is set to the max frame rate of your monitor. You also want to make sure that your OpenGL rendering GPU is set to your actual GPU. You want to go to preferred refresh rate right here and put highest available. You want to go to texture filtering quality, and you want to put high performance. It's going to give you the best FPS possible. And that's pretty much it for all of the necessary settings here. If you go to the change resolution setting in the display settings right here, you want to scroll all the way down to where it says PC and make sure it's at the... My color settings, I didn't change at all. I think I have my brightness on 52, but that's pretty much it. It's because I have a pretty dark monitor, so I turned it up a little bit. That's it. For my video color settings, I have everything on default as well. And then my video image settings, I have everything on default as well. It's very default. Now, like I said earlier, I have a Wu-Ting 60 HE keyboard. I actually got this keyboard for free because I did an ad for them one time, but normally this is a pretty expensive keyboard. But if you want the best keyboard for gaming in general, not even just Siege, but for gaming in general, this is the best keyboard on the planet. Most pro players for any game literally ever use this keyboard because there are certain things you can do with this keyboard that you can't do with other keyboards and actually have been banned in other games because it is so good. So let me go to the actual software of my keyboard to show you what I mean. First of all, you can set your actuation point, which means you can set how hard you have to press the key before it actually does the action. So if I'm gonna, here, let me move my thing down really quick. Don't mind the Monster Energy and the deodorant. I get crazy on my live streams. So if you look at my keyboard right now, obviously when I press a key, I can either press it very lightly or press it all the way down. If you set your actuation point to, let's say 4.0 millimeters, that means you have to press the key all the way down for it to do anything. If you set your actuation point all the way up to 0.1 millimeters, if a hair touches that keyboard, it's going to activate, which means you can make it to where you can set your actuation points very, very low. So essentially you have less input delay than literally anybody else that doesn't have this keyboard. You get negative input delay. It's absolutely broken. Not only can you set your per actuation point, but you can do it for individual keys. So if I like to move as fast as possible, but I don't want to have to set my lean off on accident, I can set my movement to 0.01 and then set my lean to like 1.0. And you can set every single key to do that. You also want to make sure that if you have this keyboard, you have your rapid trigger set to all, just like this. And then I have the sensitivity on the highest, it is 0.15 millimeters, and my release just a little bit higher than that. I also enable tachyon mode, which makes it to where my current speed is 1 millisecond, which is just absolutely insane. Because I have tachyon mode on, though, it makes it to where I can't really change the colors of my keyboard all that much, and it's not as bright. Whereas if tachyon mode was off, the colors actually get a lot brighter, and I can kind of just change around what I want to do with it. But for now, I'll keep tachyon mode on. I don't have any keys remapped. I don't really mess with that. I do have advanced keys, though, and I use SOCD Snappy Tappy, which essentially just makes it to where if you press down a key, it will go back to what the key was doing before you pressed it down as you release it. Which means essentially if you're leaning, you unlean quicker when you want to unlean, and when you're moving side to side, you move side to side essentially just faster. I put on my Q&E and my A&D, and that's pretty much it. There's a lot of cool things with this keyboard. I'm not even sponsored by them for this video, but that's just what I have for my keyboard profile. Now, very quickly, if I move my camera back up really quickly, I do have some monitor settings that I can show you. So let me actually move my camera so you can see my monitor settings. So if we take a look right here on my monitor, boom, everything's on. I have a few presets. I have my Game 1 preset on, which just gives me faster FPS at the expense of the brightness of my monitor. I have my response time set to fast. If I set it to super fast, for some reason, I have like screen tears. Let me actually full screen so y'all can see this just a little bit better. If I go down to the brightness and contrast settings, I have everything set to 100 except for my contrast. I have it set to 75 just because it looks like really, really bad with it on 100. For my aspect ratio, I have it on wide 16:9. I have my input color on RGB, which is really, really important. You want to have that and not the other one. And then I have sharpness on 10. I don't have it on 100. I think that just looks bad. My transparency, by the way, is on 20 in case you were wondering. And that's literally it for all of the necessary settings that you're going to want for the game. Now, before I go, there are some important settings that you need to do in your Windows. So if you just go to settings in Windows, just like this, go to display and make sure your display resolution is on the highest. This should have changed if you were in your NVIDIA settings, but just in case, just make sure, okay? Make sure your output device is on your actual headset and your input device is on the microphone that you're trying to use as well. Then look for mouse settings right here. And then you're going to go to additional mouse settings. You're going to go to pointer options, and you're going to make sure that this little slider is on the 6th tick, which is the one in the middle. And then you're going to uncheck this box. If enhanced pointer precision is on, you want to uncheck that. What this does is make it to where the mouse is going to speed up the more that you're dragging it, which means in game, you don't have a set sensitivity. Your sensitivity is speeding up and slowing down every single time you move your mouse. You do not want that, or else you're never going to get a consistent sensitivity. So make sure that is unchecked. I'm pretty sure if you have raw keyboard and mouse inputs, that shouldn't matter anyways, but just to make sure, always have that unchecked. And that is completely it for every necessary setting that you need coming into Siege X when it releases in the summer of this year. My name's Alka. Check out this next video. I stream every single day on Twitch if you want to check that out too, and I'll see you in the next one.